Hello, Mzansi. Thank you very much for joining us on yet another exciting Saturday afternoon. But we start the show on a bit of a side note. I'm Sizwe Mabena, joined by Mark Haskins as well as Jericho Sana. And I say we start on a side note, gentlemen, because we're paying respects to a man who contributed to Southern African football and also South African football, working for sides such as Free State Stars and winning the league with Orlando Pirates, sadly passing away at the age of 72. That, of course, Mark, is Wayne Barreto, born in Malawi.
Yeah, certainly we had it due to heart complications, but I remember him certainly from his time at Orlando Pirates and winning the league with Orlando Pirates, if I'm not mistaken, the 02-03 season.
Yep.
But yeah, that's no mean feat. He came in and really, showed what he's capable of. And to his family and, close friends, our condolences and our prayers and our thoughts are with them.
Yep. Sherry, another who comes from Malawi originally, but generally works around Southern African football, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and gives a lot to the game in his time down in Southern Africa.
Thanks, Sizwe. I think for me, the remembrance of him comes from Free State Stars. I mean, he was quality, but you always give credit to people who come and make something out of our football in the country. May his soul rest in peace, and we are with his family.
Of course, having moved out to Europe, he did pass away in Europe, in Portugal, did Roy Barreto. Now, our thoughts and prayers are very much with the Barreto family, including all that worked alongside him that feel the loss, and we certainly do feel it in the southern tip of the continent. Now, in keeping things moving along, let's switch focus, gentlemen, and talk about the big news over the last week is South Africa making history in getting to the knockout stages of a Soccer World Cup. But up against one of the host nations, they're doing well from a hosting nation point of view. All three have moved on to the next round, but South Africa losing to Canada. And Jerry, I'd like to get your thoughts firstly on what you thought of the game. And, well, Hugo Broos on the whole as well, considering this may be very well his last game with South Africa.
Yeah, really. A difficult one. I mean, I was happy with the starting lineup, to be honest, because we gave it all. I mean, we played good football. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a goal, but it was more like we were more attractive, and then going forward, we were good. I don't want to go to individual players, maybe collectively, but come second half with those subs, I think that's where we just took a back seat, and then we waited, and they were not formidable as the first half that we had the likes of a Rele who had to be substituted. So I think for me, that's where we had to fall back, because now Mbata comes in, you still have Sithole, you still have Mukwena. It went back to the problem we had with the game against the Czechia in the first half, before Rele was introduced. So for me, it wasn't a good changes from Hugo Broos. But the coach is a coach. That's what he thought on the day. But unfortunately, that's why we had to suffer in the last minute. I was still like a player now. Yeah. Because if you look at that old man, for me, and you look at all these youngsters, when they laugh, you look at their body language. For me, it says it all. I mean, we missed in Qatar, honestly speaking, because that's the element where I said nobody knew of Nkota being in the national team until Hugo Broos made that call of Nkota. Unfortunately, now we had to miss him. But yes, the likes of Muremi, Maseko, even though a little bit of question in terms of decision making in Maseko, but I would come and say the confidence of the boy, when he has made a mistake, he still wants to go and work again with the ball. And you know, the contribution that the coach did, I mean, for me, I wish he can change his mind and say, no, let me give South Africa another 3 years and see where we're going. That's basically my wish. I don't know with Mark, but that's my wish.
Mark, the same question goes with you. Your thoughts on the World Cup this lost to Canada and Hugo Broos. I know you've been a big fan of his and you've spoken highly of him throughout his entire stay.
I remain a big fan of Coach Hugo Broos, and the results speak for itself. Where you judge a person based on their output, based on what they've delivered. And no one can question what he's delivered. When you look at where we were before he started his tenure to where we are now, talking about getting to the knockout phase of a World Cup, we've come a very, very long way under Coach Hugo Broos. So I remain a big fan of his. And he says he's going to think it over and maybe if we can accommodate him where he can spend, time with his family and, just manage it in that regard, then maybe he'll consider staying on. We'll see what that means for us as a country. But certainly the time he has been here, he's really done well. Going back to that round of 32 match against Canada, I have to agree with Coach Jerry. I felt for Relay specifically, because when you look at Relay's game, Relay is always going to thrive more in the second half than he will in the first. Yeah. And so I would have preferred then if Relay was not going to play a full game, that he play second half. Yeah. That we start with him on the bench and rather introduce him. Because in the first half of any match, the game is very tight. It's a cagey affair. The spaces are limited. But in the second half, when the legs are a bit weary, now the spaces start opening up. Yeah. And that's where Relay will come to life.
What did you think of his first half performance?
That's the thing, though. It was what was expected. Yeah. He was still good. Yeah. He could have done more. I think he could still have influenced the game a bit more. But I don't think he had a bad game. And so what the thinking was behind substituting him, I don't know. I can't tell you.
It was clearly a tactical change on the whole.
And we went more defensive. The reality is that we went more defensive. Yes. And I don't know why we did that. But, I really wish that Relay got to play the second half, because I feel that's when he's really able to take over games.
Now, we have to congratulate Canada, of course, who, like South Africa, were making history in getting to the knockout stages of a World Cup for the first time. And while for South Africa, we'll hope in 4 years' time, many of the youngsters that were part of the squad will take us even further come the next World Cup. So we take a short break, come back and talk about the way forward for Bafana Bafana.
Let's get the views of Michael in the UK.
Yes, Carol, what a huge game at the top of the table. I can't wait. Teco? Carol? Reggie?
Hollywood Bets. Catch the feeling.
Welcome back to Game On, and of course the big news is South Africa's exit from the World Cup, but we have learned one or two things, and the future is worth discussing. And gentlemen, the big concern, I think, for some of the conversations we've had over the last couple of months going into the World Cup was who's going to be our central defensive pairing. We knew Bogazi. We weren't sure who was going to play alongside him, and Okon comes in, slots in alongside Bogazi. Do you have any complaints with that duo, Sherry, in what you saw at this World Cup, and going forward as the future of South Africa defensively? They're both very young. One is 20, the other's 22.
And we will only look at the players that featured in the World Cup squad. But I'll also come back and said, we still have Olwetu Makanya.
Of course.
I mean, the boy is doing well in the USA League, and he's one of the top, and he's still young. Excuse me. And in terms of age, we still have the balance. I mean, if you're talking about the 4 years to come, if we do qualify for the next World Cup, I think we're going to have a formidable side. You look at Mbogazi, he's still young. You look at Okon, he's still young. A little bit of maybe the full backs in terms of left and right, Mudau and Modiba. But if you look at the youngsters that are still coming, I mean,
Masego's there.
Oh, maybe if you can also take a look at maybe the goalkeeping department.
Yeah.
You know, because if you look at China, Williams
and Goss.
Yeah.
Age-wise, yes, they say goalkeepers are good in terms of having better age in them, but you still need to have a little bit of a youngster that will come into the fold and get that experience like those that are playing already in the national team. I think for me it was just a positive sign of saying there are good things to come when we go into, if we qualify for the next World Cup.
Well, we talked about the youngsters. we have to talk about the more experienced campaigners. And when we talk about those experienced campaigners, you don't get more experience than Ronald Williams, Mudau, left and right back as well, Modiba as well, Tebo as well. I mean, you can't get more experience than that or better experience than that. How sorely will they be missed, and how much of the future will they play for Bafana Bafana still?
We can't write them off because we still need them.
Yeah.
If you look at it, September is going to be upon us very soon. And then we'll be playing qualifiers for AFCON. And there's an AFCON next year to think about. And so ultimately, all these players are still going to play a huge role. And that's why when we speak about the way forward for Bafana, we've got a great crop now, a great balance between experience and youth.
Yeah.
Where, there's a change of guard, and we have to allow that change of guard to happen over time. It mustn't just be, okay, all the guys over 30, you are done.
Sure.
Let's bring in all the youngsters. No. Aubrey still has a lot to offer. Kuliso still has a lot to offer. Even Ronwin still has a good few years left in him. But I do agree with Prajeri. Alwandiso Radebe is only 18 this year. 17. Is he too young? But, maybe he's been our junior national team keeper, under 17 level.
Yeah.
He'll probably move on to under 20. Should we now consider, blooding the young ones? Yes. But the future of South African football is bright. When you look at this squad and who was there, who got experience at the World Cup, 15, remember I've said it before, 15 of the 26 players are born in 2000 or after. That means they're 26 or younger.
I have to get both your opinions on this quickly, just in the interest of time. Some may say the big concern for South Africa going into the World Cup and at the World Cup was offensively. What did you guys think of the striking department, firstly, including the creative department? The big question, the number 10 position, and how important is related to the future of Bafana Bafana?
It's still very important. I mean, the team, a lot of teams are going to be built around Relay.
Yeah.
He's a generational talent. And I mean, his talent is next level. But having said that, it's not only Relay. There's so much talent still that we need to see. A player that I'd love to see now be introduced into the Bafana setup is Puso Ditejani. He's the same age as Relay. He's also 2004, so he's 22 years old. Kutlwano Letlaku. You saw what he did. He played a Champions League final already. So there's so much young talent that still needs to be introduced. We saw what someone like a Bennett Mukwena, when we're talking about strikers, scored. That's the future.
And we have to talk about strikers because Mahopa Reynolds faster going forwards.
Exactly. So
question marks.
Someone actually said to me they believe that Klompo Kekana said to me he believes that Bennett Mukwena will break Benny's scoring record for Bafana. That's how highly Klompo rates Bennett Mukwena.
Okay.
So there's so many young players that, obviously they still need to announce themselves and introduce themselves properly to the world, South African football and global football. But I am really positive about the talent. We've never had an issue of talent, Prajeri. Talent has
But we're talking specifically in the attacking departments here. The sharp end of the attack, yeah?
Now for me, Safa, it's literally what Safa decides to do moving forward is going to be paramount to the success or failure of this team.
Also, Sherry, when we talk striking department, it's also important what these guys do in the club football scene to get noticed for the national team as well. The future, I'm talking.
Yeah, but I think in terms of strikers, Sizwe, it's a little bit difficult and awkward because we really need the future. Let's start saying what Mark is talking about now. Where does that format of us discussing about our national team, especially the young generation that we have, is because of the person who's going to be leaving us if he wants to. That's my only worry. Because if you look at our history before, we never had so much many youngsters in a major tournament for Bafana. And Hugo Bruce has proven that youngsters are really needed for the future. Let's hope and pray that, as I've said it, maybe if he can just say, let me just continue, let me introduce more of these youngsters. I spoke about Nkota, whom we just missed. But what he has done, it's all about who's going to come in and take over with the same mentality of having trust on these youngsters. Because he's talking about a lot to Mark. Ukutlwano, Puso,
Ditejani.
I mean, we're going to have a coach maybe without Hugo Broos, who will say, no, I only need experience. And then where do we go now? We're no longer thinking of this future generation that we want to build. Now we want to say, no, we want players with experience for instant tournaments that we're going to attend and finish. And then we don't look at the future. But Hugo Broos has made us to believe in these youngsters and start talking about the future of Bafana based on the players that he selected.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful for it in terms of what Hugo Broos has done.
Well, thank you very much to Hugo Broos, and we hope, well, there'll be question marks. Some will hope he continues. Some will be looking maybe to start a new chapter in the way of South African football. I'll tell you what, we'll close this chapter for now in as far as Bafana, and look forward to what Morocco can do in representing the African continent in what should be an interesting fixture today in payback for the South African loss against Canada. That on the other side of this. Welcome back to Game On, and let's talk what we expect to see today from an African point of view. Morocco, of course, the one nation from an African point of view that we're expecting a lot from when it comes to this World Cup. We're hoping they can do better than last time around, and the tough bar they raised up to the semi-finals. But up against the Canada side, Mark, that we learned a few things from in as far as their approach to the South African game, and tactically, their coach was on the money and impressed you with a key strategy against South Africa that seemed to work in the second half.
Yeah, certainly. Jesse Marsh is no pushover. He's a top-level coach who's coached some really top clubs around the world. And so he knows what he's doing. He knows what he has at his disposal. He knows how to use what he has at his disposal. So coming up against the Moroccan team, you can imagine the planning that's going to go in there. Excuse me. But from a Canada perspective, they're going to have to be very wise and in how they approach it, because this is the number 7 team in the world. Morocco are contenders in this tournament. Say what you want, they are actual contenders to lift this title. And so Canada know that, and they know that they're going to have to make life very difficult. But how do you plan for Hakimi, a right back? Imagine you planning for a right back, Brajeri. So I believe they're going to go with their 5 at the back and a 5-2-3 formation to try and make sure they contain and really keep Hakimi especially quiet. So it's going to be interesting, the tactics on the day for me from a Canadian perspective as to how to stop Morocco. That's what I'll be watching and really looking with keen interest.
Jerry, for Morocco, I don't think you can send out a bigger message than beating Netherlands to move on to the round of 16. But they send out the message to the world that they are real contenders. I mean, we know what Netherlands can do from a footballing point of view.
We know what they can do. I mean, they've set the standard, the light to say if we take out Netherlands, one of the big guns that were earmarked to go all the way in the tournament, and they managed to bulldoze them out of the tournament. So now it's going to be something that will give us Africans a confidence in this Moroccan team. I mean, the way they play, and Mark was talking now, but I still have to ask Mark now to say, which position is Hakimi playing? Is he a right back or an attacking right winger? Because how many times you get him inside the box? Even though maybe in the Netherlands game, missing that penalty, it didn't demoralize the spirit of the other players. And that's where you say Comorado sometimes works when your leader didn't do well and they made sure that they win by scoring more of those penalties. But yeah, I think for me, Morocco will be the team to progress tonight.
We have to take sorry, Jerry. We have to take our hats off to Hakimi, of course, over 100 appearances now. So what a player and what a contribution he's made to the Moroccan cause. Well, Hollywood Bets has made it fashionable and maybe we could say easier for former players and legends of the beautiful game here in Mzansi to give back to the community. That is pretty much the same for Abedigo Dichoze, PSL winner and Pirates legend who gives back to the community in Soshanguve on June the 16th. Not only his anniversary, but his birthday month as well. So let's find out more about the Tsotsi #1 tournament.
In sport, we often hear the words giving back, but what does that really mean? Some people speak of simply making a difference and sharing advice, while others genuinely want to give back to a sport that gave them the opportunity to create a name for themselves. That can come in different forms, but for some ex-footballers like Abednego Njodwe, it's about giving exposure to young talent, and the Tsotsi #1 tournament in Soshanguve, which was powered by Hollywood Bets, is doing just that.
I grew up here. My school is right here next to me. That's why I decided to do this tournament, because if you can see in Soshanguve, but not only in Soshanguve, in the world, this thing, they're killing us drugs, and try to take these young boys to come and play soccer. That's why I decided to open this my foundation, so that I can upgrade these young boys, because nowadays those boys, they are not playing soccer. If you can recall, 1976, we were struggling. It was around apartheid. Those people, they're fighting for us. So we can, if you remember, it was only rugby. Now you will see the boys that can play soccer now. And another thing, June 16, that's why I decided to do my tournament on June, because it's my birthday month. And it's my anniversary with my wife, 21 years. That's why I'm doing this. I'm enjoying this youth month, and it's my special month. That's why I'm doing this on June 16.
Having won the PSL title with Orlando Pirates in 2003, Abednego knows a thing or two about how to reach the highest level in the game, and he called a few friends to show the youngsters how it's done with an exciting Legends match which had some familiar faces. While there is always a need for development and a spotlight for players, there was also a big push on the park to go all the way, and it was the perfect way to celebrate Youth Day. 16 teams battled it out from the 13th of June all the way to the 16th, and it was Queens KFC and Brits Academy who eventually fought it out for the ultimate title. There could only be one winner though, and it was Queens K who took the title.
Well, we trained 2 days before we came for the tournament. New boys put together, very disciplined boys. They love school, they love each other. It's the first time combining a team within a week, and they make friendship immediately. For me, I'm proud for them to achieve what they've achieved.
We motivated each other from the first game to the last game. We told us that we're going to get there, we're going to win it by force. So I think it's because you believe that you can do it. So we believed and have faith on what we are doing.
I would like to congratulate my fellow partner Abednego just with your tournament. This encourages kids to know that sports can give you life. Winning is just a cherry on top for these boys. For me, the occasion is on its own. I just say big up to my brother Abednego.